if I sense that jealousy, or if I sense that you're not really there for me, you're not really a ride or die, I know immediately I cannot be friends with you.
If I want honesty, I have to be honest.
If I've decided that I no longer think that we are a good match as friends, I don't need to tell you that. I made that decision internally, and now I will slowly fade away.
What you see, you can't unsee.
If you call me at 3 a.m. and you needed something, I would be there for you.
That's the loyalty factor that you have, which I appreciate so much.
I don't think you're meant to be friends with every single person that you meet.
Yeah, I'm not a small talk person.
I want to unearth everything. I want you to cry. I want you to bare your soul to me. That's who you are.
Hello there, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your oasis, your destination to be all things just a little bit more brave. My guest today is dishing out her truth, along with how to accept our immigrant families and how to accept and shift the way that we perceive them so that we can actually have a healthy, amicable relationship with them. So this episode is for you if you've ever thought about figuring out what kind of relationship style is yours. I know we get into all of it, and we navigate conversations of how to accept the closest people in your life, or maybe knowing when to cut out a toxic person. My guest today is none other than Vasavi Kumar. She is often described as the queen of saying it out loud. A first-generation Indian immigrant raised on Long Island, New York, Vasavi has relentlessly searched to find her own voice, access the freedom of her creative spirit, and help others along the way out loud. When she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 19, she made it her mission to understand how her mind works, starting with making room to hear herself think. She's also one of my dearest friends. So let's welcome Vasavi Kumar on the Brave Table this week. Here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back on.
Oh my gosh.
We have so much to talk about.
I know. Let's get going. We have a lot to cover today. And first things first, let's get into toxic people, family members, accepting their nuances.
Well, I recently told you this. I went to visit my family back in Philadelphia. I spent 11 days with my mother, my father, and my sister was gone. She went to Iceland. She took her whole family to Iceland. So I went to Philly to support my mother while she's taking care of my father in his old age. And I got along with my mother the entire time, the entire time. And my mother hasn't changed one bit. She's gotten older, of course, but who she is as a person at the core, judgy, highly anxious, irritable, moody. That's just who my mother is. But she's also a wonderful human being.
When's your birthday?
April 5th. She's an Aries.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's the most independent. She's hyper independent.
Bold, fiery.
Yeah, very fiery, bold.
I wonder what her ascending is.
I should find out. I should get her time of birth and I should find out.
Yeah.
But we had the best time when I went to Philly, and it's because I learned to accept her for who she was. She has stayed exactly the same. And I don't say that in a bad way. She's 73 years old. Like, she's set in her ways. That's just who she is right now. She's not trying to change who she is right now. She's set in her ways.
Yeah, we have to accept who they are.
That's
at some point.
That's exactly what happened. I just accepted her for who she was. None of her behaviors have changed. I have changed. I have changed how I look at her.
Well, so it's interesting. And for Brave Table fam, if you're watching this on YouTube, listening to this, we'll link the episodes that we've done in the past when you first came on a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, and to now, the difference is because you have a full life story that we fully get into, and I want everybody to get to know that side of you as well. And for those who struggle with their relationships with their mothers, with their parents, where I feel like in your 20s, you're kind of pushing everybody away. 20s, maybe 30, because, you have your Saturn return and you're kind of wanting to make something out of yourself. And so you reject the people that you grew up with or closest to. But then I feel like there's a sense that you come into yourself. And whether you get married, have kids, no kids, I think either, and tell me if you agree with this or not, do you sense that there is this maturity that happens where you're like, you know what? I am going to be more compassionate. I am going to go visit. There were times where you're like, why would you go visit your family?
You are the reason, one of the main reasons why I make it a point to visit them quarterly now. My sister and I became very close again back in last April. So we've really rekindled our friendship, our sisterhood, my sister and I, my older sister and I. But you are one of the main reasons why I visit them more often, because you've said to me, like, why don't you go visit them? And you've said it, and I used to get annoyed. I'm going to be really honest with you. I used to get really annoyed when you'd be like, why don't you go visit them? And I'm like, but you don't understand what it's like. And then I did go visit them, and it was hard at first. But
I'm like, your mom reminds me of Bua. Like, they should hang out.
Yeah. But I do agree with you that there's a certain level of maturity that takes place when you just accept them for who they are. I don't want to fight with my 73-year-old mother. I have no desire to nitpick at her. I have no desire to tell her how she should be. I have no desire to be like, well, you need to love me like this, or you should. I don't want to do any of that anymore. So part of that has also become, I have detached from needing the stuff that I used to need from my mother. I don't require that anymore.
And hold on. So for people who are watching this, who are like, oh, okay, so that is a possibility. It takes a lot out of you to go this way, because I can only imagine, I mean, there had to have been a grieving period for you to grieve the idea that, okay, maybe my mom will change. Maybe my mom won't say the shit she says. Maybe my dad won't be doing the things that he does, the full expectations or whatever. So there has to be a grieving period of the expectation that we believe that at some point they're going to give us what we needed when we were kids.
Spot on. I had to mourn the loss of the childhood that I didn't have. I had to mourn the loss of the mother that I didn't get to have. Even my dad's very sick now. I had to mourn the loss of the father that I didn't get to enjoy in my 40s. Like, if my father was healthy right now, me, my mom, and my dad would be traveling all over, 100%. We'd just, because they'd be retired, we'd be traveling all over. So, to your point, I had to mourn the loss of that. You can't just go from like, oh, I can't stand my mother to, oh, I all of a sudden accept her. You have to grieve, to your point. Yeah.
And the grieving can take some time.
It's taken me, I would say, probably 3 to 4 years. In this season of my life, it's taken me at least 4 years to like grieve that.
And for people who don't have a way to be able to do that, what has been the biggest help for you to allow yourself that space?
I don't second guess the way that I feel anymore. If I feel sad about something, or if I feel I want to mourn something, or if I'm grieving, I don't second guess it and I don't invalidate it. Like, I have so much compassion for the Vasavi that didn't get to have the mother that she wanted to have. I also have compassion for my mother who didn't get to have that relationship with her daughter. She doesn't really know my sister and I. She doesn't really know us. You know what I mean? She knows the idea of how she wants us to be as daughters. So there's also grieving on her end as well. But I can't speak for her. I can only speak for myself. And so it's been difficult. And what I would say is to stop invalidating yourself and how you feel. If you wish a relationship could have been different, instead of being like, oh, it's no big deal, I shouldn't make a big deal about this, stop invalidating yourself. So that really helped me as well. I actually allowed myself to feel my sadness. Mm-hmm. I've spent many nights alone crying, thinking about my mother, thinking about the fact that she hasn't called me in weeks, because she's busy, she's doing her own thing. But I've come to terms with it. Like, she's busy, she has stuff to do, she's full-time caregiver to my father, and I had to learn how to give that to myself. And find it in not just find it in other people. Like, yes, it's great I have friends who can help me meet my needs, but I have to meet my needs first, right? I had to become the mother to myself that I didn't get to have through my mother. Yeah. And I don't have kids. So I'm learning how to be a mother, right, to myself, like how to actually give myself that compassion, that understanding, that nurturing, that acceptance, that validation. Like, I'm still learning every single day how to do that and how to be that person for myself. Yeah.
It's wild. And I also want to just double click on what you shared about your mom, having to grieve and mourn the expectation and the loss of the daughter she wished she had, and you vice versa. But also, maybe even checking into, like, how was your mom raised? Did she have that? What was her relationship with her mom? Because I don't think we ever think, well, trauma goes and passes through generations. Yeah. And so what was her relationship like with her mom that she learned a lot of this stuff?
Well, you got to hear this. My mother did not live with her parents until she was 13. She lived with her grandparents from 0 to 13. So she is hyper independent, hyper vigilant, was she was raised by her grandmother. And she's the oldest of 5 children. When she went back to live with her parents, she all of a sudden had 4 new siblings to take care of. So she did not have a great relationship with her mother. It wasn't like mother-daughter. It was very much adult to adult, because my mother immediately went into caregiver role for all of her siblings.
That's hard.
Yeah.
And she probably had like the resentment.
Of course. And still does.
Yeah.
Still does to this day. Still resents the fact that her parents left her with her grandparents till the age of 13.
And here's the thing though, because, we do this. We do this in Indian Filipino cultures.
Yeah.
Like you'll drop your kid off, at the grandparents for a summer or 2 or years. And I know this on both sides, even Filipino sides, but a lot of Asians do this as, the thought is to bring a better life, for financial security, et cetera. So the parents can go to whatever medical school or any sort of extended schooling. But we don't actually talk about the dark side of like how the kids actually, or AKA our parents, actually feel about it.
About having to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't get the reality, because it's like, oh yeah, sacrifice. It's like sacrifice, period.
Sacrifice, period. But what about all the trauma that comes along with having to leave your kid and having to go do your own thing? And that has to be hard. So that's why I also have that compassion for my mother, because I know it wasn't easy for her growing up. And I also know she probably put a lot of that on us too growing up, and she was a working mother growing up. So we had babysitters all throughout our childhood. So I know I know she has a lot of guilt. I actually did like conversation cards with her, and I asked her, what's your biggest regret? And she said, I didn't get to spend enough time with my kids because she was working so much. So I know that's been really hard for her. So what am I going to do now at this age? I'm going to, yell at her, be mad at her, want her to be different. No, we just accept her. So that's how I've dealt with that relationship.
Yeah. Acceptance is a huge portal, because when we're allowing ourselves to accept a scenario that we can't change, we have to go through the steps of grieving.
Yeah.
The 5 steps of grieving, or the 7 steps of loss. And what about, because you're really good at this, being able to, and I want to segue into the next topic that I want to bring up with you, is we talked about family, we talked about accepting, which now, because you've accepted both your mom, your sister, your relationship has been better.
Much better. Much better.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's easier. It's just easier. We still have difficult conversations. I can have difficult conversations with my sister. I just don't have them with my mother. It's like talking to a brick wall, So I accept those are her skills. Her communication skills are limited to that, and that's that. So I don't try to change that. That's just what it is.
Well, and it's interesting though, because, as you're talking, I'm thinking about my bula, and we just brought her on the Brave table as well. And, you could tell she just had so much. There was just this like resistance, and there was this like, and I just, now it's like, she's 77.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, this is who she is.
Yes.
This is all of who she is. And, yes, it's fun. It's funny. She has all of her one-liner comments, which are great. But at the same time, we also have to appreciate that they're aging,
and they're elderly to us. They're the elder generation.
There is that respect.
Yeah. For me, I got to respect my mother, and I'm not really respecting her if I'm not accepting her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
And I think that's huge for our like culture. It's yes, we can poke fun and we can do all of these things, but at the end of the day, respect is like number one.
Yes.
And well, what do you think with, then the folks who are just not as close with their parents, like they just choose to walk a different path.
I think that's totally fine.
And they choose to,
cause the least amount of harm in your life. What is going to cause the least amount of harm in your life? If being around them is going to bring out the worst in you, take some space.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, do you think because we're so culturally ingrained to, take care of our elderly. Like we have so much reverence for the elders because culturally it's an expectation. Do you think it's harder then for folks, for people of kind of the diaspora and children of immigrants to then just walk the other way because of the upbringing and the expectations and the sacrifices that they've had and done for us?
I will say that I have walked the other way to an extent. If you notice, I don't live on the East Coast with my family. I see them maybe once a quarter. My sister is the one who lives there, and they all live together, and she takes care of them. She's the eldest daughter. In my own way, I have walked a different path. I have walked away. I'm not fully gone, but I have walked path away. So if people have to do that in order to maintain your own peace and self-preservation, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You got to do what's best for you at the end of the day. Oh, jinx.
At the end of the day. I mean, you're right. And I feel like I've also ebbed and flowed. And I think, which is why it's interesting that we're kind of, we're in our 40s.
Yeah.
Proud.
Yeah. Very proud. 42.
Proud. And also I think there is that sense of understanding, where you were in your 20s, how you are, what you're kind of trying to battle with through your 30s to arrive where you are, to be confident in your own skin.
Yes.
To say, those things I'm going to accept out of you, and some of the things I still don't accept, but I'm just going to love you anyways.
Yes. That's exactly what I've done with my mother. There are still some things about her that annoy the hell out of me. They annoy me. They trigger me. She is one person that can get under my skin. But even as I'm saying these words right now, I'm like, but every time we talk, it's just been easy because I'm not expecting anything from her anymore. I'm just enjoying her for who she is. She's enjoying me for who I am. And then we keep it moving. It's not like I need this from you because you are my mother. I used to be that way. I used to need that. I used to need mommy. A lot. I needed mommy's love. I didn't really get it that much because she was working so much growing up. And I really craved that. And now I don't require it like the way I used to. No.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So moving on, now you've been really good at cutting people out of your life.
Maybe too good.
I mean, too good. Maybe to a fault.
Yep.
Let's talk about toxic people and you like I said, you're really good at this. How, for somebody watching, how do they also get good at that? And is there a line?
It's like such a good question. How do they get good at it? Okay, let me teach you my ways. Let me teach you my toxic ways, my toxic cutting ways. No,
your cord cutting ways.
My cord cutting ways. I think it's just for me. I have disrespected myself for so long. I have been around people who have not treated me well for so long. So if I get a smidgen of that, if I sense that jealousy, or if I sense that you're not really there for me, you're not really a ride or die, or you're trying to cut me at the knees just a little, I know immediately I cannot be friends with you. I can't have a morsel of that energy. I can't. We couldn't have the friendship that we have if there was any jealousy between us.
Yeah.
No way. Like we just wouldn't work. So for me, if I sense that from someone, and it's not paranoia, and I used to think it was paranoia, it's usually just my gut hitting me like, oh, that doesn't feel right at all. If I feel that, I won't, it doesn't have to be this drastic thing. I'm cutting you off. I just will stop talking to you. I'll just stop talking to you. If you reach out to me, I won't ignore you. I'll respond back. But on my end, I'm no longer putting in that energy.
Oh, but you're not you're not saying, hey, I can no longer, you're not doing a closure conversation.
No. But if you reach out to me, I'll reach out to you. But in my mind, if you reach out to me, I will respond back. But in my mind, you are someone that I can no longer trust or feel safe with. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to keep putting the energy into that relationship.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that. It's almost like, believe them when they show you their true colors. Yeah. And what you see, you can't unsee.
Yeah.
You can't unsee.
And not everything needs to be said out loud. Not everything needs to be said by us. It doesn't.
I don't know. Sometimes I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. And here's why. I think that.
Because you're big on the closing conversations.
I am really big. We just had to talk about this.
Yeah.
But we did. So, and contextually, I think that big, especially if you're dating.
Yeah.
If you are dating somebody, or if you're casually dating, and you are trying to look for the one, or you're trying to look for that person, it is so important, in my opinion and in my experience, that I don't think I would have even been open to Ajit if I had my dating tabs open in the way that they were. It was constant, because I'm like, oh, I have a plethora of people. I don't have to choose. I'm like, okay, let's see how it is with this person. Let's see how it is with this person. Okay, let's see if they fit on my, I had a spreadsheet. Don't do that. But however, and I remember vividly that I'm like, again, and this was my mantra. I'm like, if I want honesty, I have to be honest. If I want vulnerability in my partner, I have to be vulnerable. Literally, those two lines were just kind of like my going, because obviously I was married before. Honesty, vulnerability was really not there. And if you want that in a person, you need to be that. Sometimes you need to show that. You need to demonstrate that. Yeah. And you need to go first sometimes. And so, I know that for me, it was such a big, it was a big task for me to say, hey, I really loved our time together. And, I'm going to start seeing somebody else, or I don't think this is really going to work out in the long run, but I love your energy, and I good luck to you, or some variation of that. And I remember closing the doors on like at least 5 of these humans before Ajit and I finally kind of got together. So there was an energetic closure. With friendships, it has been different. I mean, I have non-negotiable with love, for sure. That has to be clean and clear. But with friendships, yeah, that has, I think I'm similar to you, where there's a slow back off.
Yeah, it's a slow fade.
Yeah, it's a slow fade. Yeah. Unless there was a definite like break.
Yeah.
And then you have to have a clearing conversation.
I agree with that. If there's something that has happened and it's just in the air, I agree that you need to have a conversation. I don't think there needs to be a conversation about every single feeling, though. You know what I mean? If I've decided that I no longer think that we are a good match as friends, I don't need to tell you that. I made that decision internally, and now I will slowly fade away. And if you reach out to me, no hard feelings, man. Like, I will totally text you back. If you need something, I'll help you out. Like, that's the kind of person that I am. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to continue to pour my energy into you. Yeah.
I do believe, though, there is still some energetic, if there is an opening, there's still that kind of energetic, like, leakiness where and I'm practicing this too, right? If I've had a charge with somebody or anything like that, I've learned this from, there's a Jain holiday that comes up every year, and it's for 7 days, and you're fasting every day. And it's at the end of it, it's called Bhushan. And Bhushan is basically the belief that for 7 days you're fasting. You're only drinking water, and you have one meal, I believe, in the morning and in the evening, but you're just drinking, and you can't drink anything. Or maybe you're drinking water in between the days. Sorry for those of you Jainies out there who are maybe going to correct me on this. I should know this. I've been married to a Jain for a really long time. But the idea of it is we're cleansing. We're cleansing, our spirit. We're cleansing our body. And at the end of it, you say Machami Dukkadam. And Machami Dukkadam means the idea that please forgive me for any harm I've done throughout the year, if any ill will, any negative charge that we've had. So it's almost like you're clearing out any emotionality, any resentment, any jealousy, any envy, any hardship, anything. Please forgive me for any wrong that I've done to you, subconsciously, unconsciously, and let's clear the slate. And I learned that, and I was like, wow, what a beautiful ritual that we do every year. And that made me think that, okay, if we're not closing the doors, on even our friendships and things that go sour, if you're not wishing the other person well, we're going to attract that person or that situation or that circumstance. We're going to attract that pattern of a person or that energy in another human, because we're meant to learn in relationship, whether it's love or in friendship.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also don't think that every conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, I can respect that.
Yeah.
I can respect that. I mean, I can respect that. I don't know if I actually agree fully.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I can respect that.
We can disagree on the Brave table.
Well, of course we can. That's why there's a brave table. Yeah. So tell us your process then. Do you have like a cutting cord ceremony that you do?
Is it
like how spiritual do you get when you're like, all right, I can't have this person in my life? And do you think you're too good at it?
Do I think I'm too good at it? I think I have come a long way to get to a place where I can actually do that. That was usually very hard for me. I would usually stay around in relationships for a very long time. So I think I'm good at it. I don't necessarily know if I'm too good at it, but I think I'm very good at it. And I think I'm good at identifying whether someone is a good match for me or a fit for me or not in friendship. Mm-hmm. And I can tell. And then based on that, I make my decision. I don't think you're meant to be friends with every single person that you meet. You know, I think you can have acquaintances, you can have associates, but you know this, I have like 3 friends. And you're one of them, you know, and that's because.
Well, it's hard to get into Voss's inner circle. That is for sure. She's got a super tight inner circle, and we can agree to disagree.
No,
because I'm the opposite.
You're the opposite, and that's totally okay. Have I gotten good at cutting people off? I don't think I'm gotten good at it. I think I'm good at it.
I think you're great at it.
Thank you. And
you're great.
I just don't want to be miserable, and I want to be happy, and I want to have people in my life.
But that's the Taurus in you too. That's the Taurus in you. You have a few, but it's, you know, the few that you have, that's you ride or die.
That's it.
You go above and beyond, backwards, forwards, inside out, and I think that's the loyalty factor that you have, which I appreciate so much.
I love that you brought in astrology.
You know.
Yes. So I feel that way. I keep very few friends in my life, and that doesn't mean I'm not open to more, but it's not everyone is going to be in the inner circle, right? But I will still love you from afar. I will help you if you need something. But if you call me at 3 a.m. and you needed something, I would be there for you.
Well, and by the way, one of our other friends talks about this, Simone Hang, who we've had on quite a few times. You know, she defines friendships because there's 5 different points of connection. Mm-hmm. So she defines it, you know, you have your inner circle, the people that you'll call in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. Most people cannot even think. And they only can think of like maybe a few fingers on the hand of who they would call in the middle of the night. Mm. And a large portion of that only has maybe the one person. And if we don't have that, then we are much closer to being lonely.
Yeah.
So if you can't think of one person that you could actually call in the middle of the night, that you can share, oh my gosh, you know, someone's sick, I need support, I need help, I'm not doing good, then you need to carve out those friendships.
Yes.
And you need to make the time for that. And then there's like the outer ring. So you have, you know, the inner ring, mm-hmm. which of course should be small.
Yeah.
But then you have these outer layers, and then you have, you know, she calls like kind of the acquaintances, the people, if you're in a town or in a neighborhood, you go to the coffee shop, you go to the yoga studio, you go to the girl, you know, selling the cute little hats, and you know them, mm-hmm. but they're your acquaintances. Or if you live in a building, you'll have like your neighbors, mm-hmm. things like that. They're not your ride or die, but maybe if you...
They are a familiar face that makes you feel good when you see them.
Yeah, and you engage in small talk or conversation. You have common interests.
Which I love small talk. I think it's a great way to just have that little points of connection with people.
Yeah, I'm not a small talk person.
You're not small. Like, you are not a small.
No,
you're like, let's get deep. I want to go to the wounds.
Yeah,
I want to unearth everything. I want you to cry. I want you to bare your soul to me. That's who you are.
Don't take me to an Indian party. No, they will not like me there.
No.
Like, we are not going to just talk about what color you're wearing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, this was great. So how I wanted to end this conversation, I mean, I wanted to spill the chai on a few things. Mm-hmm. So pickleball or tennis?
Tennis, you know that I'm going to kick your ass every time.
Stop it.
Yeah, every time.
Stop.
Tennis, every time. I love how big the court is. I love playing singles. I love running from one side to another. I love yelling.
I'm getting curious more about pickleball. And I feel like Instagram is listening to me. So I get now all of these things where, you know, you could create your pickleball court in your living room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, This is great. It might be easier to teach my kids this.
Okay, well, I hope you learn a racket sport because I really want to play tennis with you. you, or even pickleball. I'll play pickleball with you.
Listen. When we played, it was 100 degrees outside in the dead of the heat, and I was still running to get those balls. You were not running, just FYI.
You cannot get the ball over the net. Did we forget that part there?
I did get it over that a few times.
We had a good rally. We did. Little mini tennis for you. For your amateur ass. Little mini tennis.
And then last question, what word is describing this season and stage of life?
Fun. I just want to have some fun. Yeah, my therapist, our therapist, asked me this the other day. I was sharing my screen with him because we were doing like a virtual session, and I was like, you need to look at my calendar and how busy I am. And
I love him. He's so great.
I know. And I shared my calendar with him, and he's like, Vas, this all looks really great. You seem really busy. You have lots of clients. Things are going great, but where's the fun? And I said, I'm like, I'm a fun person. Like, I thought I had fun. And he was like, there's no fun on this calendar. So fun is my word. Yeah. I need to have more fun, and I can make anything fun. And I
told you that. I told you that.
Yeah, you told me that too. So It's like, we have some travel coming up. I'm doing some fun things. I'm excited. So that's my word, fun.
Fun.
Yeah, just want to have some fun. If it's not fun, I'm like, well, how do we make it fun?
So good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know where to get Vasavi's book, if you want to learn how to say things out loud and be a pioneer in really activating, opening your throat chakra, fully expressing the truest sense of you, where do we get it?
You can get it anywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. Say it out loud.
Say it out loud. And where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at my name is Vasavi. It's my handle. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the other side. Wow. Was that amazing or was that not amazing? If you have not gotten Vasavi's book, please run over and get her book wherever books are sold. She's got a freebie for you as well. We will link that in the show notes. It's vasavi.myflowdesk.com/free audio training. And she also has her Say It Out Loud book on IG that you can follow. And her her full IG account is at My Name is Vasavi. And let's see, if you have really enjoyed this episode, we have linked 3 additional episodes, especially the one that we brought on Vasavi a couple of years ago. So you'll see the difference in how her demeanor and her style was in sharing what a big life she's had even before she's been the queen of helping others say it out loud. And I'm so honored for those of you who have tuned in maybe for the first time. Maybe somebody has shared this episode with you. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you have 2 seconds, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, click the follow button if you're watching this or seeing this on Spotify. And if you haven't already left a 5-star review, what are you waiting for? We would love to hear what your thoughts are, what you noticed, if you have changed your perspective upon cutting toxic people out of your life, or maybe rearranging what familial relationships could look like when you are just fully in acceptance. It is my honor to guide you through these brave conversations, and I hope you share this with a friend, a family member, a loved one, and send your review, your 5-star review, to support@globalgrit.co. When you screenshot it, and if you send it to that email address, we will send you a free gift. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to be just a little bit more brave.